Avast there. It be too late to alter course, mateys.
Hey everybody, Steve here from Pirates RC. One of our favorite builds has always been to take the Vanquish Phoenix, which I have here, and convert that to the Interceptor chassis. And so when, let me put this aside real quick. When Vanquish released the Fordyce, the new VS 410 RTR, we just thought it'd be just an awesome opportunity for us to take the Interceptor chassis and install it on the Fordyce. So we're going to go step by step. We're going to put a Interceptor Fordyce together, and then a little bit later we'll take this out on the trail, just have a great time with it. But this should go very smoothly. This truck is very similar to the Phoenix in lots of ways. And so let's just dive into it. We're gonna have a great time. So here we go. Okay, we got our Fordyce unboxed. And as I mentioned before, we're gonna be using the Pirates RC Interceptor chassis. This is the Ghost Gray. Comes with the panhard mount, you can see it right there. Comes with the sticker pack. We also are going to be using the Pirates RC Element Servo Tray. And this is going to give us the clearance we need to clear the transmission later on. Plus it looks really nice. And once we get the Interceptor chassis on to mount whatever body we're going to run, we might use this one, haven't decided yet. We're going to use the Pirates RC body post mounts. These just make life super simple. And if we stay with the Fordyce body, we'll be using the Pirates RC 7-inch rock sliders. So we're just gonna go ahead. I already pulled the body pins on this. And we're just gonna jump right in and start blowing this thing apart. Here we go. So we're going to go ahead and start by removing some of the plastics away, like these inner fender wells, the rock sliders, battery tray, this extra servo mount, we won't be using that, and some of the plastics here in the back, I don't think we're going to be using those, and also the front bumper. So we're going to start on the driver's side of the truck and get down to the bare frame, and then we'll start to do the conversion. Now all this hardware and all this plastic, we're just going to save it. We're going to put it off to the side, because later on in the build you never know what you might need, or you might change your mind on what you want to do in the build, and you don't want to throw anything away at this point. Okay, 4 screws and the radiator is out. Okay, so it looks like the inner fender well is integrated into the rock slider right here. So before we remove all that, I'm going to get the battery tray out of the way. So let me jump into that. Okay, to get the battery tray out, you're going to remove these 5 screws here, 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 and here. And then there's an additional 4 screws here, 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 and here. And once you get all those screws out, this just lifts right out. Okay, to remove the inner fender well on the driver's side, it looks like I'm only going to have to remove this screw here and this one here. And then at the bottom of the rock slider, it looks like we'll just be able to remove this one, this one, this one, and this one. And I think this whole assembly is going to come right off. So I'm going to give that a shot and see where that goes. Okay, so I got the inner fender well off and the slider off. So it was the same screws that we just went over and just lifted right out. So make sure you don't lose these screws, guys. You're going to need these when we put the rails back on. when we screw them into the transmission, into the skid. So looking good so far. Now, because we're not going to be able to use the Vanquish Servo Tray, I decided I'm going to go ahead and flip the truck around, and we're going to start disassembling the other side. But before I do that, I just wanted to note, guys, that I threw this screw here back in to hold the upper link for the rear axle in place, so the rear end's not flopping around and, you know, causing confusion while we start to tear the other side down. But we'll be pulling this back out later when we switch over to the Interceptor rails. Okay, snip the zip tie that holds all this wiring together. Be careful not to cut any of the wires. Unplug the steering servo from channel 1 and just put this over here for now. And then we're going to go through the same steps we did on the other side. We're going to remove these 2 screws here. And let's see if I can get them on the camera here. And these 4 screws here. And all this will lift out for us. Okay, so I got all the screws out, lifted out just as we talked about. I'm going to go ahead and unplug the motor now. Just unplug it here and here. And we're just going to put this whole assembly off to the side. Save electronics if you're going to reuse them. And then also, I'm going to go ahead and note that I'm going to put these screws back in temporarily to help hold the skid in place and keep the upper links for the axles in place as we switch over to Interceptor. Okay, so now it's time to remove the top of the shocks, front and rear. Okay, so now I'm going to take each one of the shock towers off by removing these 2 screws here, and I'm going to repeat that on all 4 corners. Okay, so we've taken the 2 screws out of all the shock towers, both on the passenger and driver side. And so next we are going to flip the truck over. And we're going to go ahead and disconnect the servo horn link right here next. And that way we can remove the servo tray. I'm going to leave the servo in it, and but we'll remove the servo tray, and everything should just lift out without any issues. Okay, that came out real easy. It didn't even appear to have any Loctite on it. Maybe it did, but I couldn't see any, but it came off real easy. And now we're going to flip the truck over, and we're going to go ahead and remove the servo tray here. We're taking these 2 screws out, and then these 2 screws on this side, where the panhard bracket is mounted to the chassis. And this should lift right out. We might have to loosen these up as well over here, these forward motor mounts, just to be able to spread the chassis rails a little bit. So we'll find out when we get into it. Okay, those screws came out real easy. Turns out I am going to have to go ahead and loosen these forward transmission mount screws to get the servo tray out. Okay, I went ahead and took those forward transmission screws all the way out. We're not going to use them anyway. And so that should loosen up everything here to get this out. Oh, I just noticed something. Okay, so it turns out that we're going to have to remove this screw here and this screw here as well, because they mount actually into the plastics of the servo tray from Vanquish. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, I think that should be it. This whole thing should come out now. There it goes. All right, so that takes the whole servo tray, the bumper, the whole assembly out. And we'll just save this, put it off to the side for now. But we're actually be going back in with the Pirates RC servo tray when we're all done. Okay, so now we're going to move to the back of the truck, and we're going to remove this screw here, this one here, and the two in the back. And we'll do that on both sides, and that should remove the whole rear cross-member assembly, the fuel cell, and the rear bumper. Okay, all those rear screws are out now, so this whole assembly should pop out of here without too much trouble, I hope. There it goes. Got that side. And this side's still holding on. Oh, my bad. I didn't take this screw out right here. So let's grab that guy real fast. Got a little bit ahead of myself, but there we go. All right. So that worked out really good. Super easy so far. No issues whatsoever. And by just leaving those original screws here that hold the links in place, the upper links, and the transmission skid. Let's see if I can move it back so you guys can see here. Get it back in the frame. There we go. The truck is relatively still all together. I mean, I'm not really fighting anything. The shocks are a little bit getting in my way, but no biggie. Just lay them back. And next step, we take the frame rails off and we bolt on the Pirates RC frame rails. Okay, so now that I'm this far into the build, I decided to go ahead and change the motor out too while I've got it apart. So I'm going to be going with the Hobby Wing Fusion Pro. This is the 2-in-1, and this is the 2300 kV. So I'm going to try to get this in. I was able to get the stock motor out by just removing the drive shaft from the transmission on the front, on the driver's side. I was able to get the stock motor out of the truck, and I'm going to go ahead and now try to get the Hobby Wing, the Fusion Pro, in that same cavity without tearing the truck apart any further. But I'm not sure. It's going to be a tight fit, but I know it'll fit. We've put these in these trucks before, but I'm going to see if I can pass it through there without even taking the truck completely apart. So here we go. So on the motor change out, guys, in the end, I really didn't have to take the drive shaft loose. It'd probably been a lot easier just to go ahead and, from the beginning, to remove the 3 screws that hold the transmission to the skid plate. So that'd be this one, and then this one, and the whole transmission assembly will lift out. And then the motor, it's a little tight fit, but it will drop in. And one thing I do want to note, guys, while I got this here, I'm going to show you that the screws that come from Vanquish, they're pretty long, and they're going to bottom out on this motor before they get tight. So I'm going to go with a little bit shorter screws for that. So I'm going to bolt that in, and we'll be finished with the motor change out. Okay, so I got the motor in. I used shorter screws on the front, like I mentioned earlier, and I used washers down there to help with the plastic so the heads don't pull through the plastic. So I'm going to reinstall the 3 screws right here for the transmission back into the skid. And also, guys, one thing we often forget is to sink your drive shaft. So as you see, there's the back side of the pin on this end of the drive shaft at the transmission. And there's the end of the pin at the rear differential. So that sinks your drive shaft so you won't get any binding when everything's in motion. So pretty important to make sure you don't forget to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and get the screws back in, and the motor swap's complete. Okay, one more thing. My holes aren't quite lining up right. So due to the length of the Fusion Pro, you can see it's hitting right here. So I'm gonna have to get my Dremel tool and just do a little bit of trimming on the edge of the plastic right here so I can get the transmission to drop in flush and tighten everything up. Okay, that wasn't hard at all. As you can see, only had to take a little bit off, maybe 1/8 inch or so, but it might still barely be touching, but it went in nice and square. The screws went right back in, everything bolted down nice and flush, and like I said, I got my drive shafts all sequenced, and I'm ready to go ahead and move forward with getting the Interceptor frame rails on it. All right, so our next step is to install the Pirates RC Interceptor rails, and I was hoping to have a surprise for you guys for this video, but just don't quite have them ready in time. But these are coming out in carbon fiber, and I was hoping to debut the carbon fiber rails in this video, but we're still maybe a few days out before we'll have those, or at least we have some in our hands to make sure they're correct before we make them available. But so I'm just going to go ahead and move forward with some of our aluminum interceptor rails. And just for the sake of the video, to help you guys out a little bit, I'm going to show you what holes we're going to use. We're going to use this hole here and this hole here. And they're going to line up here and here where the prior rock sliders were. I'm just going to drop this and set that on there so you can see where those are going to go. And we'll be able to go ahead and remove this screw, put the rail in on this side. This screw here is actually going to hold the front hole right here of the Pirates RC 7-inch sliders, and these should fit the Fordyce body real nicely. And it's a really nice slider. Ramps up in the front, ramps up in the back, so we got smooth you know, sliding onto the rocks and descent off the rocks. Of course, it's got the Pirates RC logo on the side, and I think these are going to work out really nice for this build. So I'm going to go ahead and put this side together, and I'll show you how it looks. All right, you guys, so I got the slider on. I haven't put the next screw in yet for the slider, but just wanted to show you guys, you get these two screws in first. These are the ones that reconnect your upper links. Make sure you line those up before you tighten them up, and make sure your links are where they need to be so they're secured. And I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to leave these screws a little bit loose for now while I'm getting everything else lined up and ready to go. And then I'm also going to go ahead and move this slider back a little bit. And then there's two holes available that you can put the screw in to secure the back of the slider, and I'll probably go in this rear hole right here. All right, looking good. Okay, now that I got all my screws in here and here, the original two screws we talked about for the links and the skid, and I went to that back hole like I said. I'm going to go ahead and snug all these down now, and we'll continue on the other side. Okay, everybody, I got the interceptor rails all bolted up to the skid, and make a note of which holes I used. I used the very back holes on the interceptor chassis here for the rear upper link and skid mount. Next hole in is where I put the slider mount for the rear of the slider, and then the front of the slider and the front of the skid goes in the second hole back right here. There's the first hole here. All right. We're on our way. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove the stock Fordyce panhard mount, and that's because we're going to be replacing it with the Pirates RC panhard mount that comes with the Interceptor chassis. So now I got the panhard bar here. Here's a Pirates RC, the panhard mount, and the tab here that the panhard bar goes to is going to point to the inside, to underneath the chassis, and it's going to go on the front side of the panhard mount. So it's going to go on like that, and then you just put a M3 screw on the back side right here. And I might be able to use a shorter screw. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to replace that screw. I'm not going to use the stock one. I'll go with something just a little bit shorter. Okay, so I got the panhard mount on the panhard bar, and I ended up going with an M3 by 14 screw, and it worked out perfect to catch the nylock right there. Now for you guys that are new to upgrading RC rock crawlers, we have a video we did, beginner's tips, and in that we cover M3 screw kits such as this one. And you can see where I used a Sharpie and wrote the different lengths of the M3 screws. So all these are M3 screws. I got M3 nylocks in here as well. I bought those separately, threw them in here. But this is a necessity if you're building RC crawlers. So be sure to pick something like this up again. It's M3 metric screws, M3. And the lengths are, you know, got 4mm, 5, and so on here as described here. And you have to have these to build these kind of trucks. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and install the Pirates RC Servo Tray. And this is the one that we made for the elements, but they work on a lot of our builds. And for the Vanquish VS410 builds, including the Fordyce, this is the tray you're going to want to use. So when you install this, you want these 3 holes to be over on the driver's side of the truck and towards the front. So it's going to go in just like this. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit confusing, but to get the panhard bar set right, we are going in the 4th hole back on the chassis. So just count back 4 holes. Front one, 1, 2, 3, 4. Screw goes into that hole, into the chassis, through the panhard bar mount. And then on the servo tray, you're going on the 2nd hole back. So if that makes sense, remember it's the 2nd hole back. Okay, so it should look like this now. And for the back screw here, going into the servo tray, I used the M3 by 8mm screw. But take special note here, how many holes that got exposed. There's actually threaded holes here that are exposed that we're not going to use, that go into the front of the servo tray, and we're in the 2 holes behind here. Now none of these are tight, don't want to tighten anything yet, just get everything lined up, because we're going to be able to move this back and forth like so to fine tune everything when we get done. And we're going to go ahead and put the screws on the other side, and then when we get all the screws lined up and in, before we tighten them, we're just going to pinch the rails together and then tighten all the screws evenly from front to back till everything's good and snug. And that will pinch the rails a little bit, but it's going to make everything as it should be. Okay, so I've done a few things off camera here trying to decide how I want to set this truck up. And if you haven't noticed, I've put the rear cross member from the Fordyce back in the interceptor rails. I've cut it across here where it used to angle down. That's now a straight cross cut. And then here, you can see I've installed screws here on the 3rd hole back, and then also here from this set of holes, 3 holes back, and reinstalled this whole unit, and that's going to set the body up pretty much where I want it, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and mount the shocks up and make sure everything lines up, and then I'm going to put the body on here and just take a look at it, see if I like how it's looking, and we'll go from there. So obviously, as you guys know, I'm going to have to space these shocks out when I bolt them up to the shock towers. So to do that, I'm going to use the Pirates RC spacer pack, and this will provide the spacing I need to get these shocks set up. Okay, got the shocks all mounted up, and it's looking pretty good. I like how things are starting to feel. Got really good compression here on the front. One thing I do want to note is once I got the shocks mounted up, I had to tighten the link ends on the panhard mount. And I just had to tighten them up a little bit. There were still threads missing, or not missing, but showing from the factory, so there was still adjustment left, and I just thread those in all the way till the threads were gone, and pretty much centered the axle, and came out really nice. I used the short spacers for the shocks all the way around, the Rock Pirate spacers. I used the ones that are a little bit shorter that come in the pack. And then I went with the M3 by 20 screws to mount them here all the way around. And as you can see, it came out really nice. The nylock still grabbed, M3 nylock, and there's nothing sticking out, but there was the nylons hitting and locking those screws. So very happy with how it's looking so far, and I'm going to dive a little further into it, see what I come up with, and I'll share with you guys what I come up with. Okay, so next I'm going to go ahead and install the servo, and I'm going to go with a Reefs Smart 1100, and this is my favorite servo right now. The torque and the speed is about the best you can get, so I'm going to go ahead and mount that in here now. And I already got one in, but for those of you guys who have not seen our prior videos on how to get the spacers in here right, it's real easy. We just take the spacer and just take a little Allen wrench or screwdriver, just slide it on there, set it on top of the servo tray, drop it down, and hopefully this one will cooperate. And then just use it to guide it back into the hole. Use it to line the holes up right there. And then from there, I should be able to go ahead and drop the next screw in. And I got the wire in my way here, see if I can get past it. There we go. So in this case, I'm using, I'm not sure what size spacer this one is. Boom, boom. I might have to throw that later on in the video for you guys. But I'm going to get the back ones in, and we're going to keep on going. Okay, so I got the servo all mounted up, got the servo horn on. I used the Vanquish 25T, and if you can see the end of the horn there, you can see right here, I went to the outer hole, and by doing that, I'm going to have no problem going full lock both directions. You can see the end of the horn is actually going under the frame. And look at the compression on this with this setup with the Interceptor chassis. So it is full compression. You can get the front of this truck all the way down. And of course that's going to help you, a whole lot with the vertical climb. So right there you can see the setup, the holes I used, and the spacers I used to space the servo up. And even at full compression, I've got full lock that way and full lock this way. There we go, that would be better. Get my hand out of the way. All right, I'm stoked with that. That came out really great. All right, moving on. Okay, so to sum up a little bit where we're at right now is I didn't have to, but I didn't like the way the sliders were mounting up. Well, not the way they were mounting up, but the way they matched the contour of the body. So I didn't have to do this, but I think it looks a little bit better. I added a spacer right here and right here on the Rock Parts 7-inch rock sliders to help match the contour, just a little bit of the Fordyce body. I didn't have to do that. Still not sure if I can leave it this way or go back to just leaving it on the chassis. Sort of up to you. And back here you can see where I mounted this rear cross member using this hole here. And I used the existing holes in this cross member. I didn't have to drill any holes anywhere. Just got real lucky, everything lined up. There's another screw right here behind the shock. You can't see it now, guys. Now I got it mounted up. I showed it to you earlier. Yeah, I didn't have to drill any holes here. Everything lined up with the existing holes in the Interceptor chassis. So lucked out there. And up front, I'm using the Pirates RC body post mounts here. And I'm going to go ahead and locate the body on the front here pretty soon. I'll probably do that off camera and then show you what I did. But I'm using the stock rear mount. And so the body sits on there pretty nice. And I can put the clips in the back and it's gonna bolt right up. You can see the sliders look pretty dang nice, fit pretty good. And this is what the back of the truck's looking like. You see the Pirates shock towers clear the cage down in there nicely. I did have to clear the little nubs off the bottom of the cage right here because they were hitting the shock towers. So I just trimmed them off. Don't really need them. And then this is mounted into the stock rear tray right here. You can still be able to use the clips that come with the Fordyce right there. So that's going to work out really nice. Ooh, my wiring's sticking out. No wonder that didn't want to fit nicely. There we go, that's better. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and locate the holes here and get a body reamer and ream the body so I can get the front of the body secured using the Pirates RC body post mounts and just some body posts. And man, this thing's pretty much almost done. Looks great. I like the way the suspension feels on it. Probably could do some more tuning on the shocks, that's for sure. But I mean, just for doing a quick swap out to Interceptor, it's been pretty dang easy. So not too shabby. I'm really happy about it. All right, moving on. Okay, to mount the body now, I'm going to go ahead and lift this off of here. I got my body post mounts already set where I want them. And I'm just going to put a little drop of oil, just a tad, right here, right on the center of the top of the body posts. That's all you need. And then what I'm going to do is locate the stock pins at the back of the truck so I know I got everything lined up right. Okay, so I got those in there. We get everything centered. And then I'm gonna come down straight and even onto the body, let the body touch the body post mounts, and then when I lift it off, just lift it straight up. I'm gonna have a little wet dot. Let's see if I can get it in light right there for this side, and one right there for this side. See if I can get the light to show it. I can see it, but I don't know if it's centered in the camera. There it is. And then I'm going to use a body post reamer and locate the holes right there. For those of you guys that have never used a body reamer, this is pretty much what they look like. They're really sharp on the end. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to get this in light right. And I'm just basically going to put this right in the center of the oil, that little drop we just put there. And you start pressing and just turn it clockwise. Just work your way through. And just go back and forth, top to bottom, and just keep going until it works all the way through the Lexan. That's the center of that one right there. Like I said, once they're started, they're located, you can just go back and forth, go to the top side. And you just keep going until this hole's the diameter you need to get over the body post. So I'm going to finish this up and then we'll see how it fits. Okay, everything worked out really nice. Everything lined up great. Remember when using the body reamer, don't take too much off. You could always take a little bit more off if the hole's not big enough, but you can't put it back. So take your time, take a little bit off at a time as you're reaming your holes until you get the size just right, and then you're good to go. So, but as you can see, guys, this thing fits perfect. You want to set the height on the body posts here and here, and then set the set screws here once you get the height established. And just take your time, make sure you get everything right, get the height right. When the height is right on that, I'm going to show you something real quick. I'm going to place this down in the slider. You want to have to push the body down a little bit to get the pins in, and the reason you want it to be that way is you want the body to be pushed down into the rock slider. So when you put your pins in, you push the body down, and that pushes the body down into the slider here so it doesn't pop out when you're out on the trail. Okay, our Rock Pirates Fordyce build is complete. And before we end the video, I thought I'd go over some last minute things that I did to the truck. And as you can see, I slapped all of our favorite stickers and all of our friends all over this truck. But everything mounted up perfect. Whoop, there we go, right there. I'm going to go ahead and pull the body off of it. And before we end the video, also I'll go through the truck and go through the parts list for you guys of Rock Pirate parts we put on the truck. So if you decide to go ahead and move forward with building this truck, you'll know exactly what you need from Rock Pirates. So everything's already bolted up. I got my wiring all secured. Put some Velcro here. This is where my battery is going to end up, right here. And we use these little Z1500 packs. They got a nice amount of runtime to them, and they're real inexpensive, and they're light enough that you can stick them on their Velcro and they're not going to move. And yeah, I'm just really excited the way it turned out, and I think further down the road we'll go ahead and put some weight on the front of this truck, obviously, and some different wheels. Probably try these tires out, see if we like them, and just our little things here and there. But just at the end here, just to go over the parts list again for you guys of Rock Pirates parts. Pretty inexpensive build. It only took 4 parts from Rock Pirates, and your servo and what ESC and motor you put in is optional. So we use the Rock Pirates RC Interceptor Chassis. It comes with the pan hard mount. And we use the Rock Pirates RC 7-inch sliders. We use the Rock Pirates RC body post mounts. And these are a must. These are worth their weight in gold, you guys. They make the build so clean and so much easier. So I highly recommend getting these for this build. We use the Rock Pirates RC spacer pack for space in the servo and for space in the shocks. And the Rock Pirates RC Element Servo Tray. And even though it is for the Element, it works perfect for this build. Works perfect in the Interceptor, and gives you the clearance you need right there between the spur and pinion and the servo tray. And still got the extra space there to even put a winch on the truck. So, all right, you guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. And got any questions? Send us an email. And if you decide to move forward with building a Fordyce RTR, Rock Pirate style, shoot us some pictures later. We'd love to see what you guys put together. Thanks for watching.